All right, cool. We got an official countdown and everything. We're live.
All right. So we are here with your boy, the Death Star, and my brother from another mother, my man Kirk. We are here for the first episode of What Dat Mouth Do.
The only title that Khama would even consider.
Yeah, when Kirk kept telling me he wanted to do this, and I told him I don't do technical stuff, so he would have to do all that. So everything you see here, technically wise, is all him.
And I researched it in like the last 48 hours.
And I barely knew how to turn the computer on. Like Nicole
I tried to send Khama the Wi-Fi password. I said, "What's the Wi-Fi?" He was like, "I'll send it to you." And then he sent me the Wi-Fi, and that was the extent of the technical comprehension. And I said, "All right, I got to send you a link so you can join this."
Yeah.
What would you say?
I said, "Yeah, can you get on my phone?" He had the website. He said, "Girl, I sent the link to you." I was like, "The gym." He was like,
What's the
email? You know the email. I'm asking questions you know the answer to. But I probably don't know.
And so I finally sent the email, and he's like, "Do I click on the word?"
I don't do technical stuff. That's not my thing. I'm more of a people's person myself.
But seriously, we've been talking about doing a podcast for what, 5 years?
For a minute, like a long time.
For a long time.
And people think it'll make it so I don't talk as much because I'll do this, but I think it's going to do the total opposite.
Yeah, I'm here to basically direct traffic because Khama has this
aliens.
Unique. Anybody who knows
aliens.
You knows
more aliens.
You have an amazing ability to start here on one side of a spectrum and in one breath hit like 20 more. Like you'll hit a bunch of subjects in a row, which is cool, but
it's ADD.
We got to keep some sort of organization to this thing. So I think, and honestly, one of the main reasons I thought this way back when the old Fight Club, right? The old Fight Club Academy, whatever you want to call it. Back in the day, when you and Mark would argue for hours at a time, I said there's going to be cameras in just for you guys, for you and Mark Jericho, because you were like a married couple, constantly trying to win on each other. I thought it was just hilarious. I would just spend time
just sitting there listening to us fight.
What I was doing at the gym, just listening to you guys fight because it was so funny. So I've been thinking it would be entertaining to get you on a mic, and I've said, well, obviously you've done
interviews and stuff. Yeah,
this is not an interview. This is not me asking you questions.
Thank God.
This is us having a conversation because we do this for hours anyway.
Exactly.
Kind of. So just letting the world in on, like I put on the little tagline of and I'm gonna put it on the YouTube page. What that mouth do? YouTube page.
Say that one more time.
What that mouth do? Spell it all out.
All together. What that is that, not that is that.
Oh, so I have to change it to
that.
D-A-T.
Yeah, what that. Yeah. Kirk spelled everything all properly and stuff. Is what that mouth.
I tried. I feel like we're having a conversation with the two characters on my shirt right
now. There you go. We are.
But what was I saying?
You're talking about the name. So I'll get into a little, like everyone hears what that mouth do. And like, oh, I'm like, so like I always say if we were going to do this, I wanted to not just talk about one thing, but about everything, right? And that's basically what that mouth do. Like it all depends on whose mouth it is. All depends on
it's a genius.
Like what that mouth do depends on who. It can lie, it can tell the truth, it can inspire people, it can crush people, it can do nasty shit, it can do like I mean, like what that mouth do is all.
You're a professional fighter, which is what you're known for. Obviously, we'll talk about a lot more than that. I think probably the fact that you're a professional fighter may be the least fascinating thing about you. a lot of stuff going on. I want you to be able to tell your story. But your name is Worthy.
Yes.
And I'm like, how do you have a podcast and not have the name
Worthy in the podcast?
Worthy of conversation, worthy.
Because I just think it would be cheesy. Like, oh, come on, Worthy. I don't know.
All right, so we're just gonna need
we're
gonna need like the 3 people that listen to this or see this the first time to like spread the word organically
of what that mouth do, and that's what the mouth does. See, that's what I'm saying. What that mouth do, your mouth can tell people about what that mouth is. That's the interesting part of the whole thing.
So let's imagine a few people, right? that are gonna hear that we have a podcast. I've already heard a couple. Shout out to Hunter from 247. He gave me the idea of the platform to get onto on this. I asked him a few questions because I know they've done some. Him and Ryan have done some podcasts. I know he'll jump in. A couple people from the gym. We'll get deep and we'll get Chris and Sax and some other
Yeah.
people to jump in.
We'll call.
So
I'm thinking we could do something called the Idiotic Hour, where we just randomly bring in random people for like 5 minutes, and they just like say some dumb shit. You just send them back out, just pure.
So the first few people that are going to listen or get on this for maybe 5 minutes, they're gonna be like, "I'm not wasting my time on this anymore." But they know your story, right? They know
Right.
some of it.
Yeah, I'm not gonna sit here and like do my whole thing.
I know most of it, and in bits and pieces. I've met several members of your family, but like I said, I think you're a fascinating individual for a lot of reasons. I do want to have you start at the beginning and kind of what's it not. I'm not talking about your fight journey. I'm talking about you.
Not sure.
What brought you to this point? Like, what's your earliest memories? Where were you born? Where did you grow up?
So my first memory, I'm swimming around in my daddy's ball sack, right? And then
You knew this is what I was getting into, right?
so no, I like my life was dead, or I'm not dead. So, but growing up it was an interesting story. I have a big, everyone that knows me know I have a big family, 7 siblings. We were raised, we were all homeschooled. I've never been to a public school before, like ever. I've never stepped foot in like well, besides the gym, that's a different type of school, but I've never stepped in like an actual. I didn't go to college, and I was from first grade to 12th grade. I was homeschooled. So, yeah, my whole family was. Everyone in my family, like, I had siblings who went to school and stuff. So it was different, simply because we grew up in a time. I think my mom was a pioneer in so many different ways. Like I used to have dreads and stuff down in my shoulder way before dreads were cool. Like now, you turn on the NFL and everybody got dreads. Like white women got dreads. Like shit, everybody got dreads. Now, when I was growing up, there was like two people with dreads: the bad Jamaican guy from the Predator movie and Bob Marley. That's all you fucking saw.
The bad Jamaican guy from Predator.
You ever Predator 2 when the bad dude with the dreads? He goes, every time I
Predator
throw
kinda
the
had
bones.
dreads, too.
Yeah, and Predator. There you go. So that's how I got idea. Like people are like, oh, you look like Predator and shit. So yeah, so we grew up in a different, it was just a different world. I was vegetarian. I was a very unique, and still am a very unique and different person. My mom kind of prided us on that. And then we had very unique names, like very authentic African names or unique names. Like you go down my family names, it sounds like it's just different. Like you never, maybe my little brother Shaka, you messed with Shakas because Shaka Zulu is a pretty famous African king, so you kind of know like a couple of names. But like, yeah, so we're different, man. And growing up, we were always identified as the Worthies, which is kind of funny. Like people that know me since I was younger, like they would see us all because we'd be like all groups of us. My mother would always make sure we're grouped up and stuff, so we would be like 4 or 5 at a time. And people be like, "Here come the Worthies," and they knew who it was. We would get in stuff and do our thing and travel around and stuff. So yeah, like it was a very interesting life. Put it that way.
So how many cities, like, as you were growing up? It was just mostly Pittsburgh?
Yeah, we lived in my mother and my father. When I was super young. We moved to Ghana when I was like 2. We lived there for 2 years, and we probably would have still lived in Ghana, but a government official got killed, and then he like kicked out all like foreigners from Ghana and stuff. So we had to come back. We had basically got exiled from Ghana and stuff. So we had to come back home. But and yeah, that's it. We just lived in Pittsburgh and stuff. Like moved house shit or lived in the Hill District for a little bit. My mom's from Coriolis, that's from my Corpus, so we lived right out here.
So 2 brothers, right?
2 brothers,
2 brothers that I know.
right? Akeem, Shaka, 5 sisters, and
2 of them.
yeah, Misi, and Arthur, and then there's Jay, and then there's Summer and Maya. Is that right? Yeah. And there's some, I be forget y'all. I know y'all gonna watch it. But you forget me because a lot of motherfuckers, right? Yeah, I forget y'all all the time.
So mom homeschooling 8.
8 girls.
And if I could have a podcast with someone other than you, it would probably be your mother. because I met her a couple times, and
That's
I
gonna
think
be
her and I can have a great podcast. But I have some crazy respect for anybody who does it, who can do that.
Oh yeah.
Who is that
Especially in
individual.
that time, like it was just difficult to be individual, to be different. Now, I think it's really easy for people to just be like, "Fuck y'all." We can go. I mean, look, motherfuckers do whatever the fuck they want to do right now. People dating robots and shit. You do what you want to. Back then, the world was like it was very very different. Like in the '80s, you know what I mean? Like I was born in '86. You know what I mean? Like that was a different world. But I'm gonna homeschool my kids. My mother didn't just homeschool; she birthed us at home. So the first three, my oldest sister Maria, Akeem, Misi, they were all born in the hospital. Me on down were all born at home.
So you were the experiment.
Yeah, basically, I'm experiment 565, and I went pretty fucking well. My mom stuck with it. But they were all born. We were all born at home, and like my mother would just get like her friends were like midwives and stuff, and like were like knew of how to do it and stuff. And my mother just did it. Like she was just very very different, and kind of went off the beaten path with everything.
You talk about that. You've talked about that with me before. With the schooling aspects, like how everybody was responsible for the one younger than them. Talk
Yeah,
about that a little bit.
yeah. I tell people, I'm like, my mom man, you're a communist. I'm like, there's no such thing as that everyone existed on like a chain reaction type of thing. And I still use that type of process into everything I do, even in my family I have now. I'm like, there's no such thing as no one gets left behind. That's like an old African proverb. So like everyone, the whole community, it takes a community to raise a child. My mother really, because if not, she wouldn't be able to do it. You can't raise, because like after her and my father split, like you can't, and I was like 10 or 9, like you can't raise kids on that many kids on your own without the kids understanding that this is a group activity, you know what I mean? So even with the schooling, we were responsible for schooling, Joe. Like you had a child, basically how it goes. Not the person below you, but the person under that. So Shaka was my child.
I'm sorry. That actually explains a lot. I apologize. I've thought things about you that I honestly had no idea that I did. So
But
that's
yeah.
great.
So it was your responsibility to like make sure like child was like make sure your child was like knowing stuff, like keeping your shit happening. And it was just like you did that for school as well. Like we would all and it worked perfectly. It made sense to operate that way. Not just we just do this and usually people around. Like, no, not your family. No, it's crazy. The whole world should really operate like that.
Okay, we could all be communists, I guess.
Yeah, but that's the thing. Everyone gets in the names about it. Like, is it communism or is it humanity? That's what I think. I'm like, yo, it should be because people like I'm like it should be your human instinct to want to help someone who you can help, right? Like that
For
should
sure,
be.
everybody has somebody they need to take care of.
Yeah, exactly.
Somebody's taking
That
care
should
of
be
you.
like
If
that's what
somebody
makes
got your
us.
back, you got somebody
I mean,
else.
animals are like that. You know what I mean? Like you know what I mean? It's like that's like even like here we go. Like they say, I was on topic. Like that was a hard thing when I moved to New York. It was brutal to see how people. To me, it seemed like people like lost their human instinct. Like you're stepping over like your naked homeless guy laying on the street who had taken a shit on himself. You're just stepping over him. And I was like, what the fuck, dude? Like, what the fuck is this? Is this going on? And people were like, oh, this is just New York, man. You know, shit, it's just Tuesday. I'm like, fuck? That dude just took a shit on himself. We just stepped over top of him. Like, and I think I don't like to lose my humanity that way.
So was New York the first place you moved on your own? The first time you branched out?
Yeah, because I got my own apartment at first. When my mother moved to Hawaii, and I was like, yeah, I'm not going to Hawaii. So I got my own apartment, and um, that was an experience because you think you want to get to all the young people listening to this. Stay with your parents for as long as you can because you don't want to be fucking eating oodles and noodles and stealing from steak and shit. Just you don't start. Like it sounded good, and then you have to like really have to work for it. But yes, I moved out, and then I moved to New York because I was just bored, didn't know exactly what I wanted to do. So I was modeling.
So how New York though? Like what
I was
how did you
modeling.
choose it? You got a modeling gig that
Yeah, I did a fashion show at Robinson Mall, and I thought I was fucking Tyrese and shit. I was walking and shit, I was flying as fuck, and I'm like, yo, I'm gonna get all the jobs. I want to be everywhere. And then these people hit me up and they're like, "Oh, do you want to move to New York?" And they were like, basically, what this was that like they get these things they call model houses. They get inspiring models from small towns, and they move you to New York. And you have to like pay the fee.
Inspiring or aspiring?
Aspiring. Well, I say inspiring. Yeah, y'all know
You're
what the fuck I
inspiring.
mean. Aspiring models. I'm inspiring, or he's inspiring. You gotta get the fuck out of thing. Fucking Professor Kirk over here. Let's go edit that out. But they moved you into this house and you have to pay money. Like you just like be sleeping on the floor and shit. And then you like they see you on gigs and stuff. You like have to get jobs and stuff. You have to go out and get your photos and do all this shit and stuff. So it was kind of fun and stuff. So I met some cool people on it.
How long was that? How long were you there?
I was in New York for like, I think like 2 years. I was in a model house for only like 6 months, and then I moved out and got my own place and shit. And we were in, me and my parents, we lived in Newark, New Jersey, and then I moved to Jamaica, Queens. That's probably the Jamaica, Queens. That was interesting. To say the least.
And then back to Pittsburgh.
Then back to Pittsburgh.
Decided you weren't going to make it as a model.
Yeah, actually, so I found out the hard way that male modeling doesn't really like. It's not really financially beneficial. Like you get to like go around and like get free drinks and shit and go to fun parties. And if you do drugs, I don't do drugs. Like you get free coke. I'm like, yo, man, the fuck, I don't like to drink. I don't do drugs. The fuck, where's the money at? It's not like a really like financially stable thing. And most male models like they go into acting. And like I always hated the concept of acting. Like I don't know. I don't think I can like pretend to do it. It's just not my thing. Unless you let like this is different. You let me get on stage and do stupid shit, yeah. But acting a role, I'm like, nah, I'm not gonna fight that. So I couldn't get like that. So once I realized, I was like, oh yeah, this quite isn't like what I would want to do. So and yeah, and I just kind of fell into fighting. Like I just freaking met. I would go to this gym. And there's this old big ass mountain black dude. This motherfucker had to be like 6'4", big ass old dude. He's like 50 something. He always see me in the gym. We always talking bullshit because like when I had a photo shoot, I'd go in and I hit the bed. And he was like, "Yo, you ever thought about fighting?" And I was like, "Fighting what?" Like, let me jump back. One of my little homies that I used to train with when I worked at Red Lobster in Robinson. I think his name was Kevin. I think he tried to tell me about Chuck Liddell and Tito Ortiz. And I thought it was pro wrestling. And I was like, damn, dude, I'm like, you're not even that shit no more. I'm like, that's cool. I like the rock people. He goes, no, dog, this shit's real. And I was like, this stupid. I wish I could go back and find him and apologize. I remember he tried to explain to me how it's so real. And I'm like, dude, that's not real. It's fake. They know who's going to win. He was trying to tell me about Chuck Liddell. I was like, whatever, man. Because he's like, Chuck Liddell's, I think, fighting now. Randy Couture, I think, for the second one. He was like, yo, you knocked him out. I was like, yeah, whatever, motherfucker. Yeah, that's fake shit. And
I used to try to convince my parents that the WWF was real.
Yeah, and your parents had to look at you and they were like, dude, that's not how it works.
You're telling me the guy can jump off the top ring rope onto a table, and that's not real.
And you're like, no, it's not. Like, he knew he was going to do it. And he kind of explained, he was like, no, it's not. Oh, man. And so then he told me about fighting, and I was like, what the hell are you talking about? And I stepped outside. There was like a billboard for George St. Pierre fighting. He was fighting Matt Hughes. And I was like, what the fuck is this? And I went to the F5 and I grabbed some I spent like $50 on these King of Caves DVDs. And they had Uriah Faber ones. And I grabbed them and I watched them and was like, yo, there's no way they pay people to do this shit. And then I like started like this was like so you have to remember this was like before like YouTube and Google. So you couldn't like if you wanted information, you had to like actually go out there and access it yourself. So I had to like go in and like I think I went to the library and like looked up some stuff or whatever. Then I had to go and like just keep buying videos and stuff. Then I asked a couple of guys that I worked with. The one guy knew about jujitsu gym. I think it was a Enzo Gracie gym in Philadelphia, in New Jersey. And he took me over there, and I was going to go there and see how it was, but they were closed, so I ended up not going. And then I remember, ever since I was in Pittsburgh, I was going at 28X. I was the bus to go from downtown to Robinson, right? The 28X was a fast express route. And I would drive on the highway and I would see Fight Club from the corner of the bus. You'd see it and you knew it was a fight gym. I'd see it on cameras on the road. And at that moment, I was like, oh shit, yeah, I'm just gonna go to that gym. And I know it's in Pittsburgh. It's like I'm moving back home. And like I have a very spontaneous, like determined like personality. If I say I'm moving to do this, I'm gonna go do it. And like within 2 months, I moved back home and shit. Then the rest is history.
So, how old were you when you were researching these tapes and looking at them and stuff?
Like 20 or
What
19.
was the first? What was the first fight that you saw that you?
You're our favorite recent dude. I'm like, yo, what the fuck? Like, this is crazy. And I just kept watching. I watched like 6 Ride favorite fights. I was like, this is insane. And I'm watching all these King of the Cage. And at the time, I'd never seen fights. And these guys were like gods. I'm like, oh my god. Now I watch these guys. Shit. I mean, not your right favorite, obviously, but like most of the guys. There's guys as a horse swinging all crazy, but not like at that time. I was like, this is insane. These guys, I just respected the simple fact that they got here and fought each other. I was blown away that people could do that and like they were allowed to do it. It wasn't illegal.
So, one of the things I'm most fascinated with in life, and this is in any kind of profession, but especially it's exaggerated in sports, is levels, right? We talk about levels a lot. Even your last fight, if you watch Khama Worthy's fight, he's doing this at the end of the fight. That's kind of the theme right now, right?
Right.
To show people what the levels are, right? So, when did you first recognize that in fighting? Like the different levels, and did you recognize that maybe you were potentially on a different level?
There was a kid, his name was JD King, big fat kid. And him and I saw Mike Wilkins. Mike Wilkins was one of the first MMA fights I saw. I remember he was losing his fight, he choked this guy out, and he jumped in the crowd and carried him off. And then there was this kid, JD King, this kid, big fat sloppy kid. I thought JD King was shit because he knocked this guy out, right? He's a big sloppy guy. He kind of reminded me of Jabba the Hutt. So he got my Jabba the Hutt. I remember I walked up to him after the fight. I had him. I was like, yo, man, you're crazy good. He's sitting there like this. And he goes, yeah, I know. And some shit like that. I'm like, yo, man, how old are you? And he was like, I'm 20. I was like, what the fuck? And I'm like, this kid's stuff. And then I kept training. I had my first fight. Then I had 3 fights. And then I saw him fight again. I saw him get like murdered. I remember watching him being like, yo, that dude was like, shit. And I was like, is he getting better? Is he getting worse? Or am I getting better? I started scratching my head. Then I kind of started to understand, like, oh, you get better at it. It's not like you fight and then you stay there. Like you can just continue to get better. And 'cause I remember there was one guy I used to train with. He would beat me all the time. Soon as I started training, he beat me up, he beat me up, he beat me up, beat me up. He was an artist. He would leave to go do like art exhibits, and I would just keep training. And then he would come back, and I'd be better. And then the one time he left for like 6 months and he came back and he was like, what the fuck have you been doing? And I didn't even notice it. He was like, I can't. And I'm like, I just been training. And then that was when I had an understanding of if you just keep training, you just keep getting better. Like as long as you're still training, you're just going to keep getting better, keep getting better. And I was like, oh, you just keep evolving with more work. So I just never stopped training.
It's like that Kobe speech that I sent you a couple weeks ago, right? Where he was talking about, imagine you get up at whatever, 8 o'clock in the morning, you eat breakfast, you go and train. This is during the summer, the off season, whatever. And then you go home, you have lunch, you recover, got to give your body time to recover. And then you go back, afternoon session, you train again, you come back, then you have dinner, then you go to bed, you do it all over again, right? You got 2 sessions in. Imagine I get up at 4 so I can or I get up at 3 so I can get to the gym at 4, get 2 hours in, go home, rest, recover, come back, do it again, rest, recover, come back.
He just doubled your shit.
I doubled what everybody else is doing. So I know by the time fast forward several years, no matter how much you work in this,
I'm still, and that's what it is. I mean, like that's what it is. Like I tell the young students all the time, like, dude, you should be doing nothing but training. If you have free time, you should be training. And not always physically training. Some of it, a lot of it's mental training too. Like a lot of it's shadow boxing, drilling. Like nowadays, like you can watch film, like there's so much better ways you can train stuff. Like you have to always be training.
Yeah, it's that what is it? Mastery, right?
Yeah,
10,000 hours.
Exactly.
10,000 hours of, and I think that's true for a lot of things. But then there's also there's the innate talents too, right? There's the professional athletes are different. Like, could at a certain again back to the levels thing, right? I could have when I was 20, I could have started training and trained just as much as you. I wouldn't be Khama Worthy, right? There's a piece of it that's God given talent. There's the mental part that some people are just killers.
Right.
You have practice fighters and you have
Right.
real fighters.
I mean,
how much? What do you think the breakdown is? How much of it's physical? How much mental? And how much of it is just talent?
You have to now. I'm a physical specimen. My body's always. I've had like my original coach Eric Kipper always told me, he goes, you have a special, unique, I've always had unrealistic twitch reflex. I can explode and I mean, I still can. I'm almost 36 and I still have that. I still have twitch reflex to get the targets and stuff like that. But also I think the thing that helped me out a lot was I played the drums when I was younger. I played the congos. I played for like 4 years. I was a master congo player, and I think my understanding of rhythm and timing helped, man. Big time when it comes to fighting. Like everything for me for fighting is all about timing, understanding timing, breaking. Like when it comes to breaking rhythm, like advanced striking, that to me that's like second. And sometimes I have to remember that when I'm teaching. I'm like, yeah, like this, and people say, "What the fuck are you talking about?" I'm like, oh, you don't get that?
Anderson Silver always saying it's normal.
It's normal.
It's normal for most human beings.
So that's I think that helped out a lot. I mean, I'm definitely a very explosive. I'm an athlete. Let's turn around to my family. My dad did martial arts. My mother ran track. So we're very athletic beings, and like I enjoy competition. Like you have to have that, and I'm not a bitch. You can't be a bitch. You get all the technique you want to. If you're a bitch, man, you gotta be okay getting fucking hit. And I always see like gymnasts like guys who do backflips and shit. Like, damn, I can make that motherfucker better. Nah, not really. Like you do stunts and all that shit, but then motherfuckers start hitting you in your face. They're thinking, what the fuck? I do this shit. You have to have a little bit of like not caring about yourself because you can't care about yourself. And like you always say, bad life choices. You gotta be okay making bad life choices if you're gonna keep doing this shit. Like, it's a bad life choice. Just keep coming in and doing this shit.
Yeah, fighters are different, and I always remember Rogan saying, if you have to convince yourself whether or not you want to fight, the answer is no, because there's somebody else that knows that's what they want to do and doesn't mind getting hit and is training like you were talking about before to hurt people.
Yeah, I mean, like there's guys that I think get to the highest level and understand at the last minute. Like I call them front runners, guys that are like made to be in front. And then, like, when you understand, there's people who will die before you're like, damn, I really have to kill this motherfucker. And he's like, yeah. And he like has an axe in his head and shit. He's like, I ain't done yet. Like, come on, like, and that's a scary thing. Like, especially like now with social media, everyone wants to be cool and like, you want to post the videos, you knocking some sucker out and shit. I'm like, yeah, it's cool, but you might run up on that cat. He's just like my lady from Harlem Nights. She remember me hitting her with the garbage can. Bang! She's like, oh, you want to hit old ladies with the garbage can? She said, nah, I got to touch it. Like, if you never seen that movie, do it. But like that's basically how it is. Like sometimes if you're used to cutting through people and then people don't get cut through. Like luckily for me, I had that happen in my second fight. My first fight, bang, knocked this guy out. Like I hit him so bad. My first MMA fight, I hit this guy so hard that like he like went to a delayed form of knockout, and it looked like someone shot him with a cannon because his feet were still up, but his body was back. He was still up, like he was there. It was like his body had shut off, and I was like, "Oh, this is it. I'm gonna do this every fucking fight. I'm gonna do that same technique, and this person's gonna disappear." That's what I told myself in my brain. And then I fought this guy. I remember it was yesterday. His name was Bo. He was like ripped up, ripped up. I remember I saw him. King KTK used to do this thing called Gladiator Circle, where they bring us all into the cage. And I'm looking around and I see this motherfucker. And I used to be like really scrawny. Like, I mean, I'm still pretty small. I've always been really small, but I used to like have no muscle on at all. I was just really lanky and explosive. And this motherfucker was just Brad Pitt looking motherfucker. I'm like, yo, what the fuck? And he like smacking himself. I'm like, shit, this guy come fight. And I remember I had to like tell myself, like, yeah, this guy, and I'm punching him, and he keeps waving me on. He's like that very stereotypical frat boy. And I'm like, fuck, I got one of those dudes. I remember thinking to myself, like, oh shit, this guy's not going anywhere. I remember the bitch in me climbed out for a little bit. I just kept climbing out from the back, like, we don't want to be here anymore. No, I ain't going. like you have to think about that. When you think something's over, and then the bitch in you climbs out, you're like, oh man, this is not good. Like that's not a good feeling. And I had to like really like compose myself. I learned that early on. A lot of people don't really get that until later on in life. And you're like, oh shit, and it's too late. And then it creates a nasty taste in your mouth and regret all kinds of shit you don't want to try anymore. It's like going after that hot girl. Like, you go after that hot girl at school, you walk up to her, like, hey, I want to take your prom. She's like, motherfucker, please, in front of the whole school, everyone, they all laughing and shit. And then you're like, damn, you ain't never asked a girl again. Traumatizing. It can do that. It can do that to you.
So you talked about you mentioned Harlem Nights, right?
Yes.
Which is a movie you've quoted from
Yes.
time to time. That's you are a movie buff.
Yes.
Like all sorts of.
I'm addicted to movies and TV shows. That's my off. That's my off time.
Yeah, no, both of us think that the world is becoming Black Mirror.
Yeah, it is. It is.
It's almost scary because Black Mirror was before the pandemic and before Trump was president, before all the craziness that we know now. So now, what are they going to do? It's kind of scary that
they're going to keep going deeper and deeper. That and love, sex, and robots.
And we now know that aliens are real, definitively. So
90% of the conversation on this show will have just so y'all know, we talk about fucking aliens, like fucking everything from all different kind of aliens, from like ET looking fucking aliens, the alien from the movie Aliens that eat and kill people, the predator aliens, like aliens that just take human forms, all type of aliens.
The funniest thing, yes. So yesterday I walk in the gym, and you were talking to Craig. Craig's one of our amateur fighters helping you teach the kids class, right? It was before the class. Craig's, he's a student. He's trying to learn more, trying to learn from the great Khama Worthy, asking you all kinds of questions, picking your brain. He's like, so what do you think about open scoring? Right? You think we should have open scoring? Would you like to know? Would you like to know, if you're winning, you're losing, would it help you? He's being sincere and honest, trying to get an answer, and Khama's like, I don't know, dog. I'm too busy worried about aliens.
I am. It's real. But people don't understand that. I'm like, I'm like, again, this goes back to my mother. I always get to the root of things. I'm like, people are like, oh, iPhone technology, this, that, political this, political that, this new car and all that. I'm like, that shit's all fucking cool. But I want to know, like, they've been saying there's fucking aliens. Like, if there's aliens, none of this shit doesn't matter. Like, I don't give a fuck about who's doing this or who's going to be doing that or what. There's fucking aliens. Like, green dudes, orange dudes, bitches with 3 titties. I don't like if there's aliens. I don't want to dibber dabble with the goofy shit. I want to know where the green people at or whatever, wherever they look like or wherever. Like, I don't get how people aren't. How that's not interesting. Like, how it's not at the front of people's things. Like, they're still there talking about dumb shit. I'm like, who cares? There's fucking aliens, and like the government's now starting to come on. Like, yeah, dog. These motherfuckers been chilling in the corner for a minute now. We're still so distracted. We're still just like, I'm like, motherfucker. He just said there's people chilling in the corner that come from other light planets. It's like playing like thousands of light years away and shit. Like, that's more interesting than anything I can grasp my brain around right now. Because that changes everything you know about everything.
So we'll probably do a whole show on just aliens.
We'll call it ET has come home.
But I started with, and I did it. I did your thing. I jumped subjects, but I started with movies. So give me, and because this is where I think it's kind of fascinating because it wouldn't be what you think. So give me your top 5-ish. I'm not going to.
It's hard.
The best.
I know why he's doing this, right? So he's doing because he wants me to say one of my best, one of the movies that helped me understand, that really put me on a path of life, is The Curious Case of Benjamin Button. If you watch that movie,
about me, by the way.
It goes backwards in time. The Curious Case of Benjamin Button is such for me at least it's such a groundbreaking for me it kind of like made me have a metamorphosis of like understanding of life because when you watch that movie like they explain everything and it's just like when the chick got if you haven't seen the movie hold here but like when the lady was in love and when she was a dancer and she got hit by the car and they explain how everything had to happen that guy had like his clock was bad because he dropped in the barrier. It all had to lit up. It makes you think like nothing happens accidentally. So like as messed up as that is, nothing in the world happens accidentally. It happens because that's the only time it could have happened. And if you think like that, then you don't really worry about anything. A lot of people hate me for this. I'm like, well, that's the only way it could happen. And they, oh no, well you could. No, I didn't. I couldn't have done that because it happened this way. So there's no way I could have switched it up. And when you think like that, you really wrap your head around that. Like everything's only going to happen the way it's supposed to happen.
So there's no free will.
I don't know. I'm like, I mean, there is, but that free will to a certain degree that's only going to happen the way it's supposed to happen. Like there is free will, but it's only going to be the way it's supposed to happen. Like that's just the only way it's supposed to be. Because you can't fix things. You can't go back in time and fix things that we know of, right? Like we can't go back in time, so it only happens
always
one way.
destined to run with the bulls.
Yeah, exactly. That's just the way it is. Like it's just you can't fix things, and it's gonna be what it is. Like and if you like, and I think that saves so many people. I think just deal with regrets and unsolved mental biz, unsolved like problems from the childhood. Yada 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 yada. I'm like, dude, you just really took. If everyone just took a little bit of I'm kind of extreme with it. If you took just a little bit of that, it would just make everything so much more easier. Like just
Be in the moment.
yeah, like just and I of course I don't always feel like that. Like even with fighting, that's hurt me a lot with fighting too. Like especially my first loss in the UFC, I was so far from being in the moment that like it was kind of like I was watching it through a window, you know what I mean? I just wasn't there, like, you know what I mean? So, like, learning to be in the moment, just live just for that moment. Like, even now, like, you know how people record shit with their phone? What the fuck are we doing? Why are you recording a moment with your phone so you can go back later on and experience the moment instead of sitting right there and experiencing the moment? Like that makes like me and Nicole and Cole's cars like Nicole loves taking pictures. I hate taking pictures because that means I was living so much about what the moment will be 20 minutes from now or 2 days from now when I look back on it instead of living in the moment now. Maybe 1 or 2 days, but you're always like you give up, you get like that just doesn't make me, at least to me. Again, my brain is like,
I'd say so. Like if my kids are doing a sport or something, I'll videotape stuff so that I can show them later.
Later
They
on,
can see it,
right.
And then like in fights, if I'm right at the cage, I try to record some stuff sometimes because sometimes I'll get a better camera angle than anything they did.
My thing is like concerts. People record concerts.
Yeah.
Why are you recording the concert? You're at the concert. Like, or even fights. Maybe for you want to get a few, but for me, I'm not recording shit. I'm watching. It's like I don't know. Like it's just like the thing with your kids. Yes, like you want to maybe show them back. Okay, this is what you were doing later on. But even then, you might miss it live. Trying to show it to them. It's like but the moment is like, but that moment that moment is not about you. That moment's about you giving it to them. So that's a selfless moment. But most moments should be. It's like my child's about to come in and make sure I get to. No, I want to make sure I'm here for it. Like it doesn't like. I don't get that.
Put your phones down.
Yeah, pictures like because people did this stuff before phones, and people still have memories and stuff, right? I got to explain to people. I'm like before this, we always had memories and everything. People still remembered people and still had. So you don't need that. It's not really real. Like you don't.
So that whole thing for the last 5 minutes came from Benjamin Button.
Yes,
right? So Benjamin Button. That's on the list. What else?
Let me see. Benjamin Button. Definitely the Shaka Zulu movie. There's too much. There's like top 5.
You just name some of your favorites. I know one that always stuck out to me that you've mentioned a few times, and I'm always like, what is this? And we've had the conversation was Black Swan. How much you
Yeah,
like
that's
Swan?
like anything that makes you think like
The
that,
ballerina that
like
goes crazy.
anything that makes you go deep into, like, it makes you get up and you're not too sure exactly how it ended, and you're just kind of like, what are you talking about? Like definitely, um,
And you were crazy about Tenet.
Tenet, yeah. Like, you're just anything that makes you again, so that anything that makes me question how I already think, and then it's like, okay, well, this the reason I like Tenet was just the backwards, the concept of he sent himself to become himself. Like I always like the Terminator movies because of that as well. It's like, okay, so the Terminator, I mean, like, they sent the Terminator back to kill Sarah Connor. Sarah Connor had her son became John Connor. But the only reason they sent the Terminator back was to kill John Connor, but they wouldn't send the Terminator back. So it's like, what came first, chicken or an egg? And when you think that shit makes my fucking hit, like that's, and it's like, and that's been the whole concept of like how that all works and stuff. Like, and like that's the stuff that's super interesting. Like my fiance, like with Nicole, she's like really smart. She gets into that shit like on the nerdy side. Her and Dave, they be on on like the proper terms for her. Like, cause she likes astrophysics and stuff. She like watch. So I told her to go see what's the guy who's Neil deGrasse. Yeah, and he was actually really fun and interesting to watch. I was blown away how much, and I was intrigued by him. Like, I didn't think I was gonna have that much fun at all. I took it because it was her birthday gift. I'm like, I'm gonna go with you. But it was so cool because he kind of breaks it down in layman's terms, I guess you could say. He kind of like has the personality to make you understand. It was so that I watch all kind of videos with him. So it's so interesting to see how he like makes it realistic and breaks things down. But but yeah, like that's interesting. Like anything that makes you question. Like I question everything. Like everything. Like I don't question why people believe things, but I question everything. Like anything you tell me, I'm like a 2-year-old. Why? Like that's what my daughter's doing now. What's this? Why? Like that's me all the time. I'm always questioning things.
You've always got a unique take on everything. Every
Yes.
subject that you could come up with, like there's a comma take.
Yeah. The world according to Khama, I'm like, no, not how it is. Like, nope. Because it's like my thing is everything always evolves. Like we were talking about this the other day, talking about what's right and what's wrong. I'm like, to me personally, I think that there is no right and wrong. It all depends on what society tells you is right and wrong. Because you used to be able to just shoot somebody in a bar if you got into a dispute with him, and that guy was cool. He was the shit, right? People used to take their children to beheadings. Like you used to bring your kids to come watch somebody get their head chopped off, chop, right? I mean, like they used like people like there's cultures where they bring their dead out of the grave and they dance around with them every 4 years and shit. To us, that's insane. There's cultures where they grind up their bones and they drink their bone. To us, that's barbaric and monstrous, but it all depends on culture. I mean, like there's everything like you know what I mean? Like it all depends on where the society's at. So which right and which wrong, like, you know what I mean? Like it's all depends on where that. So that's why I'm like that's just my like understanding about it. Like, I don't really think it's this is right and this is wrong. Like, no, like okay, so you can't just kill people. I'm like, so what? So like, if you can't just kill people, so what gives you the right to kill? Well, this does that, but if and in different points of time of mankind, everything was different. Like you walk into my property the wrong way, I'm gonna stone you and kill you. That was okay. Like there was times you used to be like, if you read the Bible or whatever, right? You'd be able to stone your wife and shit. Like, shit was rough. Like you know what I mean? Like what do you mean? Like yeah, man, she cooking tonight. Like no, that was part of how it was okay. Like you know, there's some random ass shit. You like that's but like back at that time that was okay. And if you go around the world now, there's still people are still in multiple different places. So you can't say what's right and what's wrong. It just all depends on.
You think about how much that changes quickly too. I'm watching Boardwalk Empire now finally,
Hmm.
like the third season, and the thing that and it's cool all the gangsters and how they came to be and all that. But the craziest thing about that show to me is how much life has changed in 100 years.
Yeah,
100 years is like that, you know what I mean? And women were basically property. I mean, you know
exactly,
what I mean?
exactly. Shit, I was broke. Yeah, like that's how much it changed. Like it changes, it expands, and like it. So it's like I mean, like yeah, I mean, like the simple fact that like the prohibition stuff about alcohol. It used to be like it was bad, like or now it's with weed, like Reaganomics, don't do drugs, kids, you do drugs, you're a bad person, you're horrible, you're corrupting the world, and now everyone's smoking weed, gummies, pouring weed on their face and shit. It's like, whoa, when the fuck did this happen? But that's how fast thing can go from being. I mean, in the '80s, if you are the weed man, you were the devil in human form, right?
Dope, man.
Three strikes, you're out, and now you're like, weed saves the world.
Crazy thing about that though is there are still people in
Locked up.
prison because they got their third strike on
Exactly.
weed-related crimes. They're
Yes.
still in there, right? So why haven't they been let out?
Frisk and search. I was in New York. I got frisk and search, stop and search, or whatever. They just run up on you, frisk you. Lucky for me, I didn't smoke weed. But that was Giuliani's big thing. Remember, he apologized for that shit. Like, I was just thinking they go to the black communities, frisk and search. They just run up on
Stop
you,
and frisk, yeah.
stop and frisk. Yeah, go through your pocket. They have weed. They put you in jail. Then you have to pay and get your way. They do all kind of bullshit. It was a form of racketeering, but they use weed as like the base compound for that, and it was cool. And now everybody's like, now you got commercials for weed and shit. Like it's
But honestly, that's why, like I said, you have a unique take on everything. I think that's why it's important. Everybody has their own take,
yeah.
like because just because the law says something, just because society says something, doesn't make it right.
Dude,
Right?
rock and roll. Dude, like, think about this way: how many presidents or like just not presidential, just any political campaign, the rock and roll music, the devil. Rap music was oh my god, he put the explicit thing on the thing, right? No, what were we talking
I
about?
don't know. I'm talking about perspective. Just because the law says it, society says it, doesn't make it right. George Washington had a mouthful of slave teeth.
Exactly. Like, everything doesn't. It's all about perspective and how you perceive it and how society perceives it. Like, yeah, it's different. So it goes to the whole thing about that. So
So I'm taking it all the way back. Benjamin Button. What else? You said Shaka Zulu
Shaka
movie,
Zulu, Benjamin Button,
Black Swan. We hit on that.
Black Swan. Let me see.
You dig science fiction. Well, we talked about Tenet a little bit.
Definitely the Malcolm X movie. That movie is a very important movie for me as well. Um,
Malcolm,
becoming a
the
person.
Malcolm movie is great. My personal favorite Spike Lee movie is Do the Right Thing. Though
Do the right
that's
thing. Yeah, I mean,
probably
I
my
watched
favorite
all
movie
of Spike Lee's,
ever.
all of Spike. I watched the other day. I did not realize how good. Again, Spike Lee was a person again that was always before his time, but I don't think he gets enough credit for. But She Hate Me. I was watching that the other day, and I'm like, yo, like just the concept, just the way, just the things that you were talking about. I'm like, yo, Spike Lee was like 15 years ahead. Like he was dealing with shit that we're dealing with right now in that movie. And at that time it seemed kind of gimmicky and cheesy and shit. You're like, yo, what the but now I watched it like literally like 3 weeks ago. I watched it like, yo, he's dealing with like shit that's going like that people are talking about right now. Like that was very, very, very interesting. Like I can't imagine. Now I gotta go back and like watch some old like Spike Lee joints and like especially now as an adult. I watch like she gotta have as a kid. I ain't know fuck it. But now as an adult, I'm like, oh, everything makes so much more sense. And like, yeah, like
You can relate.
Oh,
Jungle
Jungle
Fever.
Fever. I had a biracial family and a white wife. Like, yeah, I watch Jungle Fever now. And I'm like, damn, okay. Like a lot of shit just goes into play. It just makes more sense, and I can understand like what he was trying to like. Because
You
Spike
got
Lee's
classics.
always been genius.
Mo Better Blues.
Yeah, I understood that Mo Better Blues. I mean, as an adult, the relationship concept of Mo Better Blues. I mean, but what else?
That's another one we can do a whole episode. I'm sure.
Spike Lee movies.
Well, on we could do a movie, but music.
Oh yeah,
So
all
like,
kind of
Khama
music.
and I talk about music as much as
We both agree that Soulja Boy is one of the best rappers ever. Kirk's favorite song, I'm gonna put it on where my phone at. His favorite song is Soulja Boy, Turn My Swag On. I put it on for a long time.
So I am a legit hip hop head, right? And so Khama knows that, and he is too to an extent. But he also kind of likes some garbage that I don't necessarily
Hop up out
subscribe
my
to.
bed, turn my swag on. He said, what he say? He said, and me, I'm the shit. You just a maggot on the tissue. Oh my god!
Wow.
Come on, Kirk.
But we can do a top 5 MCs episode. Khama and I've actually been to we've been to some good shows.
Some good
Actually,
shows, yes.
But so we'll have to tell that story at a certain point too of your right before your first UFC fight, like a few nights before.
Yeah.
Sunday
night.
We were out
At Common.
At Common.
Yes.
That theater in McKees Rocks that they redid. It
was really nice.
Really nice, but that was a great show. Common did it wasn't just a hip hop performance. It was like he's an actor too, so he was doing
everything he does, all his
very cool. But the crazy part about it, you even had it like on your Instagram story a while. What's going on, Pittsburgh? What's wrong with you? Like there was nobody there, and we were in the front. We walked to the front of the stage.
Pittsburgh. Y'all need Pittsburgh. When it comes to music, that's why we don't get concerts because people just like nah.
And then we went to Lupe Fiasco, which was the weirdest concert I've ever been to. It was in this theater, and we had an usher show us to our seats, and we were a couple minutes late, so he was already performing. Lupe's up there giving it his best, trying to like hype the crowd, and everybody was sitting down.
And even Lupe could say, he goes, "Damn, it's like a one person show or some shit. It's weird."
He stood up a couple times, but he did like kick push and.
We look awkward as hell. People like we're
standing up, but it was a very strange show. So, I felt bad for Lupe that day because he's definitely one of my favorites. And then I'll say the best show I have ever seen live was The Roots. It was outside Stage AE in the pouring rain on a Tuesday night.
It was warm.
That we had to pull some shenanigans to even get
in. Speaking about that shenanigans. Just in case the FBI is watching this video, no shenanigans will be mentioned.
And I tell you what, and that if you want to talk about hip hop, like one of my top 5 MCs that Khama didn't understand it that before we got there. Like he was like, "What are you talking about?" Black Thought is in my.
I like him, but
Black Thought from The Roots is.
I like The Roots.
Tariq is one of the most talented lyricists ever, and but they put on a show.
I like the show. It's just
that's a hip hop band, tubas and
tubas and shit. That's not old guy. Like I'm trying to stay young as possible. Like Kirk's going great and stuff. He's embracing. He's almost 50. He's closer to 50 than I am to 40. Right?
Benjamin Butt.
How old are you?
Yes, I just turned 49.
Oh shit! You really are closer to 50 than I am to 40. So yeah, I didn't know you just turned 49.
Yes, stop asking me to spar with you.
Holy shit! I did not know. I was joking around saying, "You're really just turned 49." Oh, you definitely got to spar for your 50. You can't spar after 50.
Khama wonders why I sit around and watch sparring.
I try to get Kirk to come in and just sparring. He's like this weirdo who just sits there. He sits there and like eats like fucking like some organic shit and watches us beat this each other. I'm like, dude, I feel disturbed going like you can't just sit here and watch. Like it's like and like Kirk's like on the other side. If you guys don't know what I mean by the other side, Kirk got money. Like Bill Gates type money, right? Kirk has a Kirk. So like he sits on the other side, puts on white gloves, and eats his expensive food, and watches the low level guys fighting.
You gotta understand, but years ago, right? And I would say fighters are different.
Right?
Some people are made for it, some people are not. I'm definitely not. I love the competition. I like grappling and jujitsu and all that stuff. I like the classes, and I do a little light sparring. Right. The first time I tried to actually like really spar. And this was actually, I'd taken some classes, thought I kind of knew what I was doing, worked a little bit. I was like, yeah, I can do this thing, man. I showed up we used to do Friday night sparring at that old fight club. And I show up and I'm working out of the bag, doing my thing. Chris Williams is watching the sparring. There weren't only a few people in there. You were actually in the office. You were like there. You were in and out of the
Yeah.
office, whatever. And Rich was sparring with John DeJesus. DeJesus was getting ready for a fight. Richie had just won like Pittsburgh Golden Gloves or something. That was getting ready for Pennsylvania Golden Gloves. So they were sparring real boxing in the old boxing ring. And Richie lost a contact or something. And so Chris was like, "Hey, Kirk, you ready to go? Jump in with John." I'm like, "Okay, cool." And John and I knew each other, but not as well as we ended up knowing each other.
John's a very. If you don't know John DeJesus is one of he just moved to Denver. John has been one of my main training partners for the past. So he's a huge reason for the reason I am the way I am when it comes to fighting. But he's a chill first. He's a chill first, punch him while they're dead. They're dead type of fighter, right? Like he's just like, I'm gonna hurt you first before you like accidentally get off on me. Like that's just the type of dude he is, which is good for fighters, not for regular citizens.
And as this regular citizen trying to try this cool boxing thing, I jump in with John DeJesus, and just a few seconds in, I realized this was something different than I had ever done before. Because I remember feeling the wind go past my head when he would throw punches. Like
yo, damn!
It was like something like a car went.
And John's probably like this. Oh, smirky southpaw and shit.
He had a grin on his face, and he's southpaw too, which makes it awkward and all that stuff. And I remember him kind of coming forward a little bit, throwing punches, and I'm trying to get out of the way and move. And I looked over the shoulder and I saw there were like 30 some seconds left on the clock, and I was like, I should have just
mentally checked out. He mentally checked out.
At the very beginning, I should have said, "Look, man, this is not. I'm flattered that you think I can like roll with you like this, but maybe you could back off a little." But of course, Macho, you can't do that. Like, you're just gonna go. I'm like, I said 30 seconds. I'm just gonna survive, make it through the round. I'm gonna shake his hand, say thank you, and get out. Right. And I was backing up, and I felt the ropes. He threw a punch up high, and I ducked, and I felt the ropes. I was like, "Oh no!" And I got to circle out. So I circle. You're always taught to circle away from power. So I circle away from power. Except he's a southpaw, so I circled the wrong way. And he dropped that cross on the bridge of my nose, and the lights went out.
I'm in the office,
and I look up. I'm on one knee, and I look up, and at that point, Chris Williams is coming back around, our boxing coach. He looks me in the face. He goes, "Oh yeah, that's broken. Put your head back down, let it bleed."
And I'm like, I'm in the office out here. Oh shit! I'm like, what? I'm like, dude, y'all can't be hurting the students. Like, what the fuck, man? Like, and John's favorite thing goes, yo, I ain't even hitting that hard, man. He moved right into that shit.
You know? He said, "I'm training for a fight, man. What do you want me to do?"
I'm like, yo.
The funny thing is, being the, I don't know, masochist I am, or sadist, or whatever the term is, I'm like, John and I end up being friends.
Yeah,
like,
and you keep coming back.
I kept coming back.
You keep coming back. I would never come back. I'm like, nah, man, fuck that shit.
Most people would have been done.
I got a real job with real responsibilities and 401k. No, I'm cool, man.
As much as the punch hurt, and as much as and I ended up having to have surgery and having like tubes put in my nose and stitch this back together and everything, because it didn't actually break the bone. It smashed the cartilage. My nose was sideways. So as much as all of that was terrible, the worst part about it was that night I went to the clinic to have them check it out. They couldn't do anything with it because it was too swollen. They were like, "You're gonna have to go see a specialist." And I was like, "Please, I just want to fix it." I was like, just fix it, whatever, so I can go home. And I go home, and my wife's on the couch, and it was like an hour later than I normally am. And I remember walking in like a low light, and she looked at me, and the look on her face was what the worst part. Are you doing? So yeah, that was an unpleasant few weeks, but stuck with it. I can't stay away.
He's here. Kirk was actually there for my first UFC fight. He like actually helped me get warm. After I weighed in and stuff, he showed up early, and he had the privilege. So I'm jacked up. Like I'm on planet 12. I'm like fucking African man and shit, right? And his ass, he's coming, and I'm like, yeah, let's roll. So we're grappling. And then out of nowhere, I think I'm like, elbow something or something.
It was yeah. We were in the basement of the hotel, and you were doing rounds with Chris on the pads, and then in between, I was
I
supposed to
grapple,
grapple.
yes.
And that was the one time that I was fearful of my life grappling because we were not grappling. We would because we both had MMA gloves. I've got UFC gloves on, and we would break from a grapple, and you would like square up, and I would just put my hands up and dive. I would just dive at your
joking.
because I was not getting punched, but yeah, I was getting kneed in the chest, and it was not fun. But glad I was there to help.
Fun times.
Fun times. We did an hour.
Yeah. So this is how it's gonna be. Kirk's gonna keep me. There's a couple of times where I just felt myself drifting. Kirk kind of pulled it back. But don't worry, I'm gonna have a little bit more control too. Like, we gonna keep fucking with the alien shit. It's gonna be fun. If you have suggestions, right? So when we get this out, and you watch it and stuff, yada yada. If you have any suggestions, things you want us to talk about, things you want us to bring up or whatever, like that's how this show's gonna be. Because we're gonna have some topics that's gonna piss some people off, gonna make some people horny. Like we're gonna have all kinds of topics. Like there's gonna be talk. We might do a whole show all about BJs, just special different kinds. And we do that.
They will be a guest host for that show.
That's even worse if we bring a guest host that talk all about BJs. I think about that. Kirk is going to go even deeper.
So you said suggestions, and I'm glad you said that because, again, the way this was set up was me asking a couple questions of a couple people, going to Best Buy, buying some mics, and getting on a platform. So we have no expertise. He definitely doesn't have expertise. I don't have any either. But I'm up for suggestions. So if anybody has ways we can do this better, like channels we can get it on, we're going to put it on the YouTube channel. Like I said, what right now is what Dat Mouth Do. We may have to change to Dat
DA with that
so we
mouth.
can keep it real. But so it'll be there on the YouTube channel. I think you were saying we're going to post the link to
so on Deep MMA and stuff, so you'll be able to post. Like if you follow me on Instagram and stuff, you'll be able to get the whole sit up. And then we'll have guests. I know a lot of me and Kirk both know a lot. Kirk knows a lot of all type of really. Kirk knows a lot of just how really cool. He knows a lot of interesting people from multiple different walks of life, as well as I. So we know a lot of cool people. And then I know a couple of famous people. You might turn on the show and like, oh shit, like that. I'm like, Wesley Snipes. You never know. I'm a D-class celebrity. So I can get in with the, I run into other celebrities and shit. I might be able to swing, do a little talk and get some people up in here. Like, oh, Wesley Snipes is at the academy. Yeah. That's the first alert.
So again, the YouTube channel is going to be what Dat Mouth Do for now. You can look at the Death Star 1 at the Death Star 1.
Death Star _1 Instagram and shit.
We'll put the links out there.
What's that? Why my name say Khama? My name is going to be Big Dick Daddy from Cincinnati. We're going to switch that. That would be fixed. I didn't know the name popped up there, but that would be split. And so he has a cool nickname. No one knows that about. No one knows what that is, right? And I just say regular old Khama. I got a regular African name like to begin with. Like, nah.
That's a nickname from college that I still keep with my closest friends. I took Swahili for 2 years in college, and that was my name that I was given in that class. And that's what those guys still know.
And speaking of, we were on the next show. I'm gonna have this picture. Matter of fact, when we do the edit, we're gonna put this picture up. Kirk from college.
That was after college.
I mean, just sitting there, like, just wait.
Remember, I'm like 97 years old.
Just wait to see the picture, man. Like, insane. But we hope y'all enjoyed it. Again, I'm about to go teach this class and shit. The ladies, and I'm like, well, let's go. We be talking all damn day. But everyone knows they know I talk all damn day. But
yes, they do. This was fun though.
Yeah.
Glad we finally did it.
Oh yeah.
We'll, see y'all real soon.
Yeah. Peace. That was funny as hell.